QR code on these cards that you got when you walked in, or in the back there's a basket. Our organ right here needs a lot of work. Well, it doesn't need as much work as some organs, but we are hoping to preserve it, and that takes some funding, and so we are thankful for all of the people who have volunteered to be in our series of concerts. And so if you did get one of these, on the back there are the next couple of concerts that are coming up that you might want to take advantage of and come. But for now, I just want to say thank you for being here, and I want to say thank you so much to Jenny and Kelly for being here and just sharing your amazing talents with us. We are so, so, so thankful. So I'm going to turn it over to them.
feels like meditation, if it was to be put into sound. I think he invites us through his music to let go, to surrender, and to be very present. Present in our bodies, present with what we hear before us, and maybe even present in a larger sense. I love this quote of his. He says, "Openings and closings, beginnings and endings. Everything in between passes as quickly as the blink of an eye. Somehow everything that lies between seems for a moment more vivid. What is real to us becomes forgotten, and what we don't understand will become forgotten too." To me, this speaks to the beautiful holiness of the present moment. So I thought it would be interesting as I played this etude today to have something for you to visualize. The
Better? Better? Okay. And can we have the next slide? This is a picture of the Hudson. And I love that this river surrounds Manhattan, where we both lived and went to school. And I love that it is vast and expansive, and a drop leads to a river, leads to the ocean. And it's such a beautiful piece about a journey. Can we have the next slide as well? This next slide is the GW Bridge. And I remember when we moved out, Brian and I moved out to New York City, we realized that I-15 in Salt Lake City ended with the GW Bridge. Oh, I-80 ends with the GW Bridge. And this piece is beautiful. It has key changes that are lovely. Can we have the next slide? And I love that it's a chance to appreciate nature and beauty. And you'd think that a crowded city wouldn't be a place to enjoy beauty and nature, but I love this vision here of Central Park. And many of you have been to Central Park, but I'll read this poem by Ann Winters. In the middle of a city of noise and rush, I find a stillness where Central Park breathes. A quiet heart of green in a tumult of gray, proof that even in the whirl of a never-sleeping city, nature can carve out a sanctuary of peace. Okay, can we have the next slide? So one of the other things that is so beautiful about nature is that we are all products of nature. And there's this variety of people in Manhattan as well that you'd think that would be overwhelming, but in some ways it's a beautiful thing to witness the diversity of people and jobs and busyness, and there is solitude also amongst a busy city. So this is, you want to say anything about Ola?
So Ola was a colleague of mine at Juilliard, and if anyone's flying to Manhattan tonight or tomorrow, he's doing a concert in Carnegie Hall tomorrow evening, so get on out. I wish I could be there so much. I think for me, the Hudson River also represents a specific place of solace for me. As I would walk there as a young undergraduate and even in my master's degree, I would find peace there and find rejuvenation as I would sit at the banks of this particular river. So having this piece written by a fellow colleague who probably understands the significance of that place is deeply meaningful to me and to us. Hello? Oh, this is good. Okay, the next piece that we wanted to share with you tonight is a very well-known cantata by Bach. This arrangement is Egon Petri, who wrote it for Leon Fleischer as he came back to using both hands. He's a pianist that lost the use of his right hand for several decades. And this was one of the first pieces that he returned to when he regained the use of his right hand. So forever, I have just thought of this cantata as a literal piece about sheep and the sheep that graze in the pasture and how beautiful and springy and nice that is. But then recently I realized this isn't about sheep. This is about people, because we are the sheep. And I thought with such tenderness how beautiful the idea of all sheep safely grazing in the pasture that is prepared for us by Christ and with Christ. It leads me, of course, to the 23rd Psalm, which reads, as you can see, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not be in want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. He restores my soul. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me." I know that I can feel this and access this, but I wonder sometimes about the safety of humanity. I wonder sometimes about the safety of our friends who are LGBTQ, for the safety of our friends who are in war and violence and conflict, for our friends that are in poverty and don't know where their next meal will come. And I think that if all the sheep were to safely graze, then those who are in a place of comfort right now have a duty and a responsibility to help provide safety for those who are aching and pleading and reaching. Pope Francis, maybe go to the next slide. Pope Francis recently, in 2020, spoke at the tomb of Saint Francis in Assisi, Italy. When he spoke at that tomb of this beloved saint, he offered a prayer to the Creator, and I wondered if we could all read that prayer together. It's the next 2 slides, and I want you to, as we read this, think about the sheep. Each sheep, every sheep that deserves to find safety and rest. Can we start that together? Let's read it now together. Lord, Father of our human family, you created all human beings equal in dignity. Pour forth into our hearts a fraternal spirit and inspire us a dream of renewed encounter, dialogue, justice, and peace. Move us to create healthier societies and a more dignified world, a world without hunger, poverty, violence, and war. May our hearts be open to all the peoples and nations of the earth. May we recognize the goodness and beauty that you have sown in each of us, and thus forge bonds of unity, common projects, and shared dreams. Amen. Isn't that a beautiful prayer? So if the tech works, I have here, while I play this beautiful and tender cantata, a slideshow of faces of people around the world, children, adults from many cultures in many varieties. And I want you to contemplate what safety would look like as they seek to graze and have safety and peace in that.
next piece was written in 2020 by a female composer, Caroline Shaw. And it's the heart of the pandemic, and Jenny comes over to my house in her big car and parks out front. She goes, "I've heard the best song. We've got to get this song." And so we sat in the front seat of her car, maybe listened to it 6 or 7 times, and there was no sheet music. And so, how did you find this out? We just dug. So we reached out to Caroline Shaw at gmail.com, and she replied. She said, "This hasn't been published yet, but sure, you guys can have it." So we played this together and got a copy of the music directly from the composer, Caroline Shaw. I love this title, Shenandoah. It's another thing about, can we have the next slide? Here's the picture of the Shenandoah River. Then go one more slide. This is actually a copy of the sheet music. So it's such an interesting piece. It begins with just one single note that sounds like a drop of rain. Do you want to play them? Yes. And then the cello kind of does this sort of drip drop thing in between it. And then we show the next slide. One more, sorry. Another one. Okay, this one. We can go back up. Thanks for being helpful. This one here, the interplay of the cello and the piano represent the waves. Like, we're not just singular, right? We're part of a great whole. And when we think of waves like that, we're just expressions of a wave, but each individual and able and part of something, but then different, and we're all different expressions of that wave. This is a copy of the score, and if you look at the cello part, which is up in that high left corner, it says in the directions for the score, loose, irregular, and non-metrical, like water. And so it's not written out, it's just like, do this for 6 bars, and be like a wave. So it's kind of fun and kind of free. You want to talk a little bit about it?
So Kelly and I, in our graduate theology program, had an assignment to take the document Laudato Si, which is an encyclical of Pope Francis, and present it in a creative way. So we thought, well, let's do it with music. So what you're seeing on our slides is a part of how we took this piece into a more of a thematic experience that incorporates some themes of Laudato Si. I actually want to go back, Barrett. Can we go back all the way to the first slide, the interconnectedness? I love the idea of one single voice, that could be a voice of an instrument or a voice of a human being, leading to a greater world, a connectedness with others, that we're all dependent on each other. Each of us could be just a single raindrop, but look what that could lead to as we love and care for each other. The other thing I thought was interesting, and maybe just one slide ahead, this is from Laudato Si, the encyclical on care for the earth. Pope Francis says, nature cannot be regarded as something separate from ourselves or as a mere setting in which we live. We are a part of nature, included in it, and thus in constant interaction with it. So just like that little drop of rain becomes a river, we're in constant reciprocal conversations with nature and with others. This was another theme that we took from the piece, that the element of water can be both gentle and immensely powerful, able to create and destroy. Pope Francis implores us to take responsibility for protecting water as an essential resource. This whole piece is just about water. Single drops, oceans, rivers. And I like that while Kelly's waving through her cello part, I have this unrelenting, grounding sort of accompaniment that is just so stable and secure. And I thought maybe this represents the natural world, where there's storms, and there's tornadoes, and there's earthquakes, and yet that daffodil's going to come up. And yet that sun is still going to rise. And that sun is still going to set. There's constancy in nature, even in the midst of tumult. And I think there's something to be learned about life in that. Here's a few things that we left our listeners from our project with. And we thought that might be kind of an interesting invitation for you as you listen to this piece. How can you help care for the earth's sacred resources? What's in front of us? And how does both the constancy and change in the music parallel the natural world and maybe your world? And finally, and maybe most importantly, how does nature help you feel God's love? Things to think about, and maybe a way to make this piece a little bit more deeply engaging.
Listen for the last bit where the cello has the theme of the Shenandoah in full. In what? The folk song in full. Before that, you only hear hints of it, and you know what it is, but then you reach the end, and then there's this beautiful recognition of this beautiful folk song that's weaved in from the cello.
Everyone knows the song Somewhere Over the Rainbow. I feel like it's embedded in our lives and in our culture, and we can thank the movie The Wizard of Oz, but I think there's a bigger meaning here. This and Shenandoah came from Yo-Yo Ma's album, Songs of Comfort and Hope. He released it during the pandemic, hence the listening in the car to Shenandoah. This is also an exquisite arrangement, and I'd go find it. Go listen to the whole album. It's just such a gift. This piece to me is so meaningful, and I think it speaks to the job of an artist. That could be a visual artist, it could be a musician, it could be any kind of connection or encounter with the arts, dance, poetry, literature. I think it's the job, the responsibility of the artist to present life as it really is, which sometimes doesn't mean that it's all pretty and perfect with a tidy, neat bow. It means that we can communicate what's dark and heavy and hard, and yet, through art, there's a way through. Let's go to the next slide. Kelly, do you want to talk about this picture?
I find that I'm closest to God in nature, and this is a picture I took in Mill Creek Canyon. It was after we had those really, really heavy rains, and it was a good fall. And so on the run, I saw a red one, then I saw kind of an orange, and then by the end of the trip, I caught a rainbow. Can you go to the next slide? This one is this is another reason we like this piece, because music has this ability, as well as nature, to be ineffable. Nothing lasts. It's just here, and you can enjoy it when it's here, and then it's gone. And when you listen to live music, it's different every time, and it's gone after the piece is finished. And the same thing happens in nature. The leaves come and go, and all of us are ineffable, but it's enjoying that present moment is when we can most feel God's love.
I'll just read this with us, and then maybe Barrett, will you leave this slide up while we play it? Rob Bell, an amazing writer, thinker, theologian, Christian. His book, Everything is Spiritual. He says, we're here on earth, in these bodies, feeling the pull of gravity, knowing that we're only here for a while. But then there are these moments, like brushes or glimpses of love and connection and hope, and suddenly we're here and we're everywhere. Our feet are on the ground, but we're flying. Our hearts are still beating, but our souls are soaring. Our invitation to you in this piece is to let your soul soar a little. Let go of what might be hard and heavy, and let the music soothe, comfort, and elevate you, because that's what makes us able to keep going, are these moments that we feel elevated, that we feel hope, that we feel like it's going to be okay. And that's our invitation to close this concert tonight. Thank you so much.
Friends, thank you so, so much for the gift of your talent, for that amazing program. Thank you all for being here, and we invite you back next month to our next concert. You can, if you didn't bring any cash or a checkbook, if you want to donate even the smallest amount, you can use the QR code that's on your screen or on the little postcards that we gave you. Again, one more time for Jenny and Kelly.